Okay, hello and welcome everybody to the NEXL fireside chat panelists that we are having with LawWiser here today. It's an honor to be working with LawWiser to bring you this very star-studded panel all about legal technology. So I'm going to get into introducing the panelists very quickly, but today we are going to talk about the state of legal tech and summarizing legal tech for 2021, getting into what you need to know. So if you are interested in legal technology and the state of legal technology as we come out of a pandemic, there has been many trends that we're going to get into that have been accelerated. Acceleration, one of the main sort of themes of the post-COVID legal tech world. So let's go ahead and get into it. I want to introduce our fantastic panelists today with us. So let's get started here. Our first panelist is Eric Chin, and Eric is the principal at Alpha Creates, where he is helping leaders build better businesses in the legal industry through innovation, strategy, and technology products. Eric is going to be doing a brief but very, I think, deep dive on Alpha Creates' latest legal tech trends reporting. He's really going to set the ground for us to sort of talk about this. After Eric, we are going to have Sacha Kirk, who is the CMO and founder of Lawcadia. And Lawcadia is a legal technology company. It's a cloud-based company that really helps in-house legal teams and their law firms to manage intake matters, practice management. And with that sort of collaborative platform in mind, Sacha is going to be speaking to the in-house law firm syncing that's going to go on. So collaboration, another very key trend, I think, in legal technology. Next, we are going to have Zolzaya Mundur, who is the CEO of Codelex, which is a legal technology company focused on augmenting, enhancing, and streamlining legal practice. And Zolo is going to be talking about the Uberization of legal services and products. That's very interesting. And finally, we have Arvind Singhatiya, which is the CEO and founder of Legalkart, which is a legal technology company that is productizing, another important word, legal service delivery. And Arvind is going to be speaking about the productization of legal services. So very briefly, welcome to all the panelists. It's fantastic to have you here. Just a quick wave for everybody. Hello, everybody. Yes, great. So let's go ahead and kick off with Eric. Eric, you are sort of our bedrock here, and you've put together, sort of the big eye view of what's going on in legal tech. So go ahead and take it away, Eric.
Thank you so much for that really awesome introduction and scene setting, Ben. I'm just going to share screen quickly. And there we go. So what I'll be doing is I'll share quick highlights from the global legal tech research we did last year. This research was actually developed in conjunction with the Australian Legal Technology Association, and it's a world's first that actually looks into the business of legal tech. It's also a world's first initiative involving 13 legal tech associations across the globe. So we have representation from across Africa, Asia, Australia, Europe, Latin America, New Zealand, North America, and the UK. And just to give you guys a sort of a sense of the scale and timing of the study, between the 3rd of December 2019 and 30th of September 2020, a contact database of 1,312 legal tech companies were essentially invited to the study in collaboration with the different legal tech associations, out of which 378 of them completed, and they're spread out across 56 countries. And here's a breakdown of those respondents by country. So what we have here essentially is we were able to build a jigsaw puzzle from the ground up of the state of the legal tech market by breaking this down into 8 major regions of Africa, Asia, Australia, Europe, Latin America, New Zealand, North America, and the UK. So let's jump into the findings. Firstly, if you look at the profile of legal tech founders, what we found essentially is that the majority, or 40% of them, are founded by a team of 2, followed by 30% by a team of 1, which means this can be a lonely journey for sole legal tech founders, which is why the legal tech associations are a great platform to connect the founders. And secondly, we found that only 20% of founders are female across the globe. That is unsurprising that an industry at the crossroads of three sectors of tech, startup, and law, they are all notorious for being underperformers of gender diversity, that we see such a low number in terms of gender representation. And thirdly, we found that a majority of the legal tech founders' age actually sit in the 31 to 40 age category, probably points to the importance of experience in the legal industry, which is why it's unsurprising to see then that the majority of the legal tech founders across the globe have come from within the legal industry, whether they have previously worked as a lawyer or have worked at a law firm. And then finally, 69% of legal tech founders have programming skills, which is very useful in product development in the legal industry. So that's a quick highlight on the founders of legal tech companies across the globe. Let's switch gears and look at the solutions they built. With a growing legal tech market, it can be confusing for a lot of potential consumers of legal tech. So what we've done is we've asked the founders to help us better understand the solutions. And here's a breakdown of the solutions as classified by the 378 legal tech companies. So what we're seeing here is, for example, 46% of them indicated their product do a bit of document automation, and so on and so forth. Now, through this study, we were able to trace 46 product categories across the globe. In other words, what we have here is a very kaleidoscopic market. And what we were able to do as well with the research is to shed a light on the product landscape by region. So for example, in the UK, we were also able to trace 26 product categories, the largest segments being document automation, collaboration, legal operations, case management, and legal analytics. In Europe, we were able to trace 26 product categories, the largest segments being document automation, compliance, legal operations, and collaboration. In Africa, we were able to trace 25 product categories, the largest segments being access to justice, document automation, and legal research. So a trend is starting to emerge here where essentially the product landscape for each of the legal tech market actually maps to the local market's development. So for example, in Africa, the major issue in Africa at the moment is really access to lawyers and access to justice, which is why you see a large proportion of the product geared towards access to justice, basically in the African region. In Asia, what we see here is 25 product categories, the largest segments being document automation, practice management, compliance, collaboration, and legal operation tools. In Australia, we were able to trace 32 product categories, the largest segments being document automation, legal operations, and legal analytics. In New Zealand, we were able to trace 21 product categories, the largest segments being compliance, knowledge management, document automation, and legal analytics. For those of you who are not familiar with the New Zealand market, basically more than half of the demand for legal services in New Zealand is driven by the government sector, which is why, again, it's unsurprising to see compliance being the largest product segment in the legal tech market for New Zealand. Now, in North America, we were able to trace 28 product categories, the largest segments being document automation, legal operations, and collaboration. And finally, in Latin America, we were able to find 25 product categories, the largest segments being document automation, legal analytics, and legal operations. So essentially what we have here is a vibrant and kaleidoscopic legal tech market across the globe. What this is also showing us is that developments in legal tech is really shaped by local market factors. So that's a product solution. For those of you who are interested, we also look into the underlying technology as well. And here's a breakdown in terms of mentions by the underlying technology that underpins those legal tech solutions that we just saw. The majority of them are still database programs, followed by artificial intelligence and pre-programmed codes and blockchain. Now, there have been a lot of market attention in recent times really around artificial intelligence in the legal tech market. So let's drill deeper into AI. Here's a breakdown of that data by region. Again, it's quite interesting. What this really shows us is the level of adoption of artificial intelligence actually varies across the globe. So what we see here is 31% of the legal tech solutions in Asia and North America indicated artificial intelligence make up the underlying technology, basically, followed by 29% in Latin America, 25% in Europe, 22% in Australia and the UK, 20% for Africa, finally 18% in New Zealand. And if you guys are interested, we also drill deeper into different branches of artificial intelligence as well. It's quite unsurprising that in a really text-heavy industry that a lot of the AI is really around supervised machine learning, classification, clustering, language processing, and so on and so forth. So that's the underlying technology. I'm going to jump quickly into the final segment that I want to share with you guys, which is looking at the impact of COVID-19 on the legal tech segment. Basically, what we have here is we're looking at two charts for each of the region, revenue outlook and client retention outlook. It's quite interesting when you compare this data across the different regions that you start to see a trend. The Australian market is the best performer for revenue outlook, with 87% of the respondents indicating that they have a positive revenue outlook. But the caveat here is that, as you can see in the survey period, that was ran between December 2019 and January 2020, before COVID-19 was a global pandemic. So if you take Australia out of the equation, basically you sort of see essentially, for example, the UK is the best performer. If you take COVID-19 into consideration, with 82% as a revenue outlook. On the other end of the scale, you have Asia and New Zealand with only 69%. And if you look at the survey period as well, that's when the first wave of the pandemic was raging through the different regions in early parts of 2020. Now, if you look at the client retention outlook, what this is telling us is North America with 72% is the highest performer in terms of client retention outlook. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have Africa with only 42%, indicating a great client retention outlook. A few factors come into play with stuff like client retention outlook, like developments in terms of maturity of the legal tech market, as well as maturity in terms of consumption of legal tech for those markets as well. So that's the revenue and client retention outlook. And finally, just want to point out the revenue challenges for legal tech companies across the globe. Again, unsurprising that we're seeing the COVID-19 pandemic was raised as number one in all but Australia as a revenue challenge for a lot of the legal tech companies that were surveyed. But once you remove COVID-19 as a pandemic, you start to see that there are also similarities across the different regions as well, whether it's cost-cutting, long sales cycle. As we all know, selling technology to law firms and legal departments aren't necessarily the easiest. You're not selling consumer technology, which is completely different. And as well as staff challenges as well, and access to funding. On top of that, I just want to point to the fact that the pandemic has also become a double-edged sword for legal tech companies across the globe. Some have seen their sales pipelines essentially obliterated as law firms and legal departments have tightened their budgets as a result of depressed economy when countries go into lockdown. But at the same time, there are also legal tech companies that have benefited from the transition to essentially remote working, which has accelerated some of the technology adoption trends that we're seeing in the legal industry. So those are the quick highlights I want to show you guys. For those of you who are interested, you can get access to the report. It's got 8 awesome chapters within it, and here's a link to the website. Thanks, everyone.
Eric, that was, first of all, I just want to congratulate you for a Herculean effort of trying to bring all that together in what was a very short period of time, but really, really valuable. I'll give my first question or sort of reaction, and then let's go to the panel. You pointed out that it seemed like document automation, even if you aggregate across the entire globe, seems to be a core technology that's kind of being adopted. The question was, in your estimation, does document automation, has it reached a saturation point, or is it sort of just getting started in terms of its adoption, let's say?
I think it's in terms of the developments in document automation. If you take a step back and look at the legal tech market as a whole, basically the first wave in terms of technology in the legal industry really was geared towards practice management solutions. And once that's done, so the business of law essentially was the first part of the segment in terms of legal that we've seen technology. The second sort of wave in terms of the last 4 to 5 years has been a concentration towards lawyer efficiency. And the low-hanging fruit for a lot of the legal tech providers is really around document automation, which is why we're seeing a lot of the product in the market geared towards the lawyers for the first time.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to go to the panelists, and I want to get a regional or geographic perspective, or even just a personal perspective. How did Eric's sort of results land with you? Is it sort of jiving with your version? Let's go to Sacha and take an APAC sort of region, Australia sort of region. How did Eric's results sort of land with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the research that they run, that Eric runs every year, I think is absolutely fantastic. And, like always, it's pretty spot on in terms of what we're seeing. I think in Australia, I think we might do we have more female founders in the legal tech market in Australia, Eric, versus the rest of the demographic? That's one thing I wasn't sure about.
No, actually, the best performer across the different regions is actually in Asia. 30% of the founders are female.
Yeah, okay, fantastic.
Awesome. Zola, why don't you let us know your thoughts? Anything landed for you specifically, or anything that was surprising maybe?
Yeah, it is a fantastic report. Actually, it was surprising to see document automation as number one in terms of technology. But thinking back, when we are like checking legal tech news, industry news, I just recall that most of the investment is around document automation, but that's so it's not really a big surprise.
Yeah, totally agreed. I have another question for Eric, but let's go ahead and go to Arvind. Arvind, how does Eric's data research jive with your qualitative research on the ground?
Thank you. So that's a wonderful report. It's encapsulating almost all the aspects of legal technology across the globe. If I talk about the Indian legal tech scenario, I think here it's at the threshold of now. People are accepting, specifically after the pandemic scenario, right? Lawyers are now looking for technology to manage their practice. It was not very prominent in India till now, till the pandemic hits, and it was considered as a luxury to have a practice management software to manage your system. But India is currently looking at products for specifically in terms of documentation, in terms of advisory. We need to have people here who can advise in the most neutral way, in the most unbiased way to the individuals, and make them understand that what exactly they need. So the legal need identification of an individual is something which is the core here. Once you understand that what is your legal need, I think it's then very easy to access service and the product from the service providers here. So yes, I mean the document automation is something which is need of the hour, and I think in India it is yet to pick up, but a few of them have already started. We are also doing a lot of work in this direction.
Yeah, fantastic. So Eric, I'm going to go ahead and cheat and ask one more question before we get to Sacha, who's going to talk a little bit about the sync between in-house and law firms. But Eric, so if I'm an investor looking at the next big thing after document automation, what is creeping in the sidelines? Where am I looking to the next big? What's the next document automation? You and I must have read the same article. There was a great article on law.com describing the first wave of legal technology being the who and the outsourcing trend. The next wave being the how, and this a lot had to do with document automation, the optimization. And the next trend is really the what, and it was describing how legal technology will change what lawyers actually advise on or even get paid to advise on. Lawyers might actually be advising on data analytics in some period of time, right? Aggregating data and then advising on what the data says. So where am I putting my money in my investment over the next 5 to 7 years? You must know.
That's a really, really good question. I've got a cop-out answer, which is if you look at the legal industry as a whole, demand for legal services, the majority of the time is quite reactive in terms of its nature of purchasing. But what we're seeing is there's starting to be a trend towards a more proactive approach towards legal issues. And what that means is you have tools like the ones that Sacha will be sharing in just a moment, where essentially it's aggregating data. It's also informing us about compliance needs as well for legal departments. So if I had some money set aside, I'll be looking at a lot of the proactive engagements with solving legal issues, whether it's compliance-based or legal operations-based tools, because that's where the big money is in terms of corporate clients. And it's a bit easier to scale that way. Selling to corporate legal departments versus selling to law firms are completely different sets of challenges. The business needs is today and yesterday for legal departments, whereas for law firms, it's slightly different and a lot more nuanced in terms of the adoption as well.
Great answer, not a cop-out answer, but I really appreciate you bringing in Sacha Kirk, who is the CMO and founder of Lawcadia. So just as Eric said, we're going to be talking a little bit about the operationalization, the in-house law firm sync, and everything that's around here. So Sacha, welcome. Go ahead and bring us on in.
Thank you very much. So one of the things I really wanted to talk about today is that sort of B2B commercial and corporate legal market. And I'm choosing that topic because that's what I know the most about. That's what, the space that Lawcadia works in. And I think, it's really interesting, coming off the back of the question that Eric had, there has been a definite shift to both in-house legal teams and their law firms in the way that they're thinking about their business and the legal market. And that's really coming out of the pandemic. And I think part of it, the way that the legal technology market is going to benefit is actually there's more openness and more discernment, I think, right now, in terms of both how the corporate legal teams and the law firms are looking at technology. So that's absolutely something that us in the legal technology market can use to our benefit and to make the most of. So I think there's a couple of trends that I really wanted to share, and they are completely anecdotal. And I acknowledge that we're probably working with some of the more forward-thinking people in the industry. So these are kind of, trends that might be coming for the mainstream. But it is certainly, if I talk first about the corporate and the government legal teams, and then I'm going to talk separately after that about what we're seeing with law firms. So for in-house legal teams, there's this real focus now on how can they improve their service delivery for their internal clients. And as Eric said, this is about being proactive. How can they really look at their function and their system and look at ways to deliver their services better and, I guess, delight and have that customer satisfaction in that internal environment. And so it really always comes down to three things. So kind of people, legal teams are starting to look perhaps at the way that they're recruiting people. And you'll see, in the media, there's more discussions around the O-shaped lawyer, the T-shaped lawyer, the delta-shaped lawyer, essentially looking at how can they have people that have more than just the legal expertise? How can they have more people with over, a good overall, well-rounded, a well-rounded person. And that kind of then flows then into the process. They're really rethinking the current ways of how they're working with their internal clients. So they're thinking about how can they be more collaborative? How can they do things more in partnership with them? And how can they take them along in the journey instead of just being the legal team in their ivory tower? And then there are some excellent examples of it. And so one of the ones that I came across last year was actually with our client Queensland Rail. They're a government organisation here in Queensland, and they put together a submission for the ACC for one of their awards, and they actually won. And their submission was just extraordinary because it really was just delving into that human approach and how they as a legal team were going to be working, that they'd work in partnership with their internal clients. And I think this really goes to show that that's not just a case on its own. I think this is happening across the market, and I think that's a wonderful thing for the industry to be client-led. And what that leads for us as technologists is a wonderful opportunity about how can we deploy and use technology to really enhance all of those processes. So that really kind of brings me to that technology aspect. So technology to embed that process, to work with those people. But also the trends that we're seeing is that in-house legal teams are wanting broad solutions. So in the past, when I say the past, I'm thinking, 3 to 5 years ago, it was more point solutions, because that's certainly what was on the market. But now they're wanting broad solutions, but within those broad solutions, they are wanting to be able to solve some specific pain points. And so those are in the areas of privacy, compliance, risk. And so there's an opportunity for organizations, I guess that's what we're working on at the moment, is having a broad platform that suits their needs from a legal operations perspective, but then also being able to solve some of those really important issues that, that are just giving them absolute headaches. And then I think that's really kind of, and document automation is part of that, adding that to the document automation talk. From the law firm's perspective, the trends that we're seeing is coming to the challenge for law firms coming out of COVID is how can they differentiate themselves even more than what they had before. I mean, they're always being faced with the challenges of, how do you differentiate a legal service? And where it's going to be a more competitive marketplace with their clients. And so they're starting to think about what can we do with our clients to embed our law firm. And technology is absolutely a key way that they can embed their law firm in that client workflow and relationship. And so, you do it using workflow automation and collaboration tools is sort of key there. And once you've got that that technology infrastructure in place, so between the legal teams and the law firms, I think what's really exciting for me, and one of the things I'm really passionate about, is, that really gives a foundation for systemic change. And I sort of like the future paradigm of legal services for me is one where, so there's a great foundation for efficiency and being able to move away from the billable hour. And, we love focusing on matter-based fees. And it's only with technology and having that infrastructure in place on both sides that you can start to make some of those changes.
Yeah. Wow. So again, congratulations. An amazing packing of some really, really big ideas. So you did fantastic there. One question that I had, and then we'll go again around the panel really quickly to see if anybody has any questions for Sacha, but what's it seems like a core part of a lot of this next wave has really been the legal operations role. How central has the legal operations role or legal operations thinking been from your perspective in terms of driving this kind of first layer of sort of systemic change?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So in Australia, we have, a scenario where, there's some of the larger organizations are really driven by legal operations, certainly in the larger corporations and the larger government departments, and others are just trying to make do with what they've got and doing what they can. And so I think there's a little bit of both. So if you're thinking about, legal operations, it's a bit more black and white, a little bit more cut and dried. Whereas, I think there is still a lot of legal teams where they are still leading with their heart and they're still wanting to be really people oriented in the way that they are delivering their services. And so I think with technology, it has to be about both. So how can we bring both into it? Because that's life. That's how we work. And so I think that's what's exciting for me. How can we bring both of those aspects into our technology?
Agreed. Good. Yes. Definitely holistic. Remembering where we've been and sort of modeling it to where we want to go. Does anybody have a quick question for Sacha? If not, we're going to go ahead to Zolo, trying to keep to our time. Any quick question for Sacha before we move on to Zolo? Okay, great. So let's go ahead and get to Zolo. So Zolzaya Mundur, very quickly again, it's been a couple minutes. She is the CEO of Codelex, which is a legal technology company focused on enhancing, augmenting, and streamlining the legal practice. So Zolo, you're going to be talking to us today about the Uberization of legal services. So let's go ahead and get into it. And that's a big word, a lot of syllables. So what do we mean by Uberization?
So thank you very much, Ben. So I wanted to talk about a trend that I believe should be a part of the discussion of the future of legal tech and legal tech industry, which is sharing economy approach, or so-called Uberization in the legal industry. Why I wanted to talk about this topic? So we're living in the time of sharing economy, really. Many services and products we use daily are based on this model, including taxis, shopping, etc. sharing economy approach transformed taxi industry in only a few years. And now that we already see examples of this approach in the legal industry, we should think about whether this approach has the potential to transform the industry and things we should know about it. So as we know, sharing economy is a system built around the sharing of resources. The idea is to share use of idle assets and services to facilitate collaboration. Sharing economies allow individuals and groups to make money from underused assets. If you have an unused car, why not rent it to someone who doesn't have a car but needs it? People sometimes call it just-in-time or just-enough approach. So we are seeing this sharing economy in many industries, as I've mentioned, hotel, taxi, retail, finance, office, rent, and so on. But sharing economy comes with its downsides, such as regulatory uncertainty and lack of oversight. So I think everyone gets that the word Uberization comes from Uber, which actually transformed the taxi industry. So why sharing economy in the legal industry? First of all, there's unmatched demand and supply in the industry. One of the key features of sharing economy is to put latent products and services to productive use, like Uber. So to match the supply and demand through some sort of matchmaking service. There are people who own a car and need more income. On the other side, there were people who need a cheaper ride. Uber simply matched these people through their service. Delivery of legal service has a substantial problem with distribution. While there are many unemployed law school graduates, there are many people who face legal problems but can't afford lawyers. What a sharing economy approach could do for the industry is to match demand and supply by making legal services more convenient and affordable. And there's also more for less challenge that clients are now less willing to spend, but they expect more results. And most importantly, rise of legal tech startups and alternative legal service providers. Legal industry and lawyers are traditionally accused of being slow to tech adoption and innovation, but the rise of legal tech is challenging the old way things used to be done for more efficient and cheap results. ALSPs are also playing an important role in this change. Before Uber, we didn't know that there could be better alternatives to taxi companies or that we could travel much cheaper. What's happening in the legal industry is similar. Before innovative legal tech solutions and ALSPs, billable hours was the only choice. They gave alternatives to clients. They are urging the legal industry to part with their old, inefficient and expensive model. So this does not mean that lawyers are going out of business. They are not under attack here, but the traditional law firm model is, and they are no longer the only game in town. So we are already seeing a significant increase in alternative structures, as you guys already know. So to name a few examples of sharing economy in the industry, there are matchmaking websites that connects lawyers and clients. For a client, the network would operate like big law firms, able to deal with all sorts of legal or business problems. And also alternative legal service providers such as Lexu in UK or UpCounsel, Priority Legal, Axiom, all those kind of alternative legal service providers should be mentioned here. Another example of sharing economy approach that I like to mention here is a lawyer-to-lawyer legal document marketplace, LexUp, that we have created. So LexUp is like Amazon or eBay of legal documents. I'm a lawyer by profession. Solo practitioners and small law firms have limited access to internal knowledge base or services of big publishing companies or research database compared to big law firms. So when they are working on unfamiliar transaction, they sometimes face the need to ask peers On the other side, there are lawyers who have archives of quality legal documents that they can't put to work. So LexUp connects lawyers in the two sides of the transaction in an open marketplace. So why start drafting from the scratch when you can learn from examples of others? So looking ahead, I think we will see more examples of sharing economy in the industry, and such services and products will not be limited by ALSPs or lawyer-client matchmaking websites. Traditional law firm model will not disappear, of course. However, because of the competition by alternatives, law firms must be more efficient. Some people call it future-proofing their law firms. Many law firms have a team focusing on just that to make their firm more efficient. Law firms should allocate some resources and consider implementing legal tech solutions that can help them work smarter, faster, and cheaper. As for lawyers, they should keep an eye out for more flexible and collaborative work style and know about new career choice other than working for law firms and in-house.
Yeah. Again, fantastic comments. Wow, there's so much that we could even go into that. So yeah, I mean, you did a fantastic job. So you covered the IP and the Uberization of the IP, the Uberization of different work hours and different work capabilities. My question, and then we'll go to the panelists, is similar to the way that Uber made taxi drivers out of people who were otherwise maybe not taxi drivers before. Do you see anything, or what's your opinion on the Uberization dynamic and marketplace dynamic for quote unquote non-lawyers, or expanding the marketplace in that way? Have you seen sort of trends in non-licensed, non-practicing lawyers sort of opening up and those sort of demand services? Do you see a future there as well?
Well, I think there's certainly a future there, but I think many lawyers will be kind of criticize that. But certainly, like some people say that legal tech is to create competition between lawyers and robots, but it's not really like that. You guys know. So, but not only non-lawyers, but I think this whole trend of Uberization can open a market for automation of legal documents, like LegalZoom, similar types of services, so that lawyers don't need to spend their time working on the same type of legal document, and they can spend their time on much more efficient work.
Yeah. So let's go to the panelists. Any reactions or comments for Zolo before we get to Arvind? Great. Okay, so, Eric, go ahead. Last question.
All right, I should break the process. I've got a quick one. It's super interesting to sort of hear Zolo's perspective in terms of Uberization of legal services. From the different jurisdictions that we've worked in across Asia, there's definitely mixed reception with sort of marketplace solutions. So an example that I could point to is the Malaysian Bar Council, for example, have sent cease and desist letters to a couple of legal marketplace solution providers 2-3 years ago, just because the marketplace solution is seen as advertising of legal services, which in a lot of the countries is really against the legal practice regulation. Again, this means there's a conversation around whether the existing sort of power structure within the legal industry, in this case, the regulators, are they open to those innovations, or are they taking a much more protective stance for the legal profession? Zolo, what's your perspective in terms of those challenges? And have you seen, for example, in the jurisdiction that you're in, which is, I think Mongolia?
Yes.
I remember doing analysis looking at the number of lawyers, the number of people as well. in Mongolia, the ratio is about 1 to 5,000 people for each lawyer, which is massive, right? So having a marketplace solution does help address the access to lawyer issue. But what's the balance between a legal profession for the good of the people versus a legal profession that's protecting its essentially business model, which is making money?
Yeah. So I think that actually, as for our marketplace, we are a lawyer-to-lawyer solution. And open for the global lawyers. So Mongolia is not our primary market. So I don't have much to say in terms of regulation in Mongolia. And actually, we are the first legal tech startup in Mongolia. So we have quite close and friendly relationship with the Bar Association. And currently we didn't have much issue with them. Speaking of regulation of these type of marketplaces services, my opinion is regulators should adopt their policies to fit the needs of the market, because otherwise it doesn't make much sense to just stifle all this innovation just because they don't fit the old way of doing things, or just they are completely new. Because I've actually read, when I was looking through some people's opinion on Uberization, many people said actually that compared to other industries, legal industry is more suitable for Uberization because of the regulatory scheme it has in place, such as through bar associations, etc. And bar associations have, they not only regulate law firms, they have regulation specific for lawyers themselves. So that's what makes legal industry suitable for Uberization. And
yeah, fantastic. So being mindful of the time and wanting to get Arvind in here, who's been patiently waiting. Again, Arvind is the CEO and founder of Legalkart, who is really sort of driving the tip of the spear in terms of productizing legal services. So Arvind, why don't you go ahead and, as they say, bring us home, and let's talk a little bit about productization of legal services and how that's impacting the market.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I pretty much in sync with the thoughts what Zolu said. And I myself was responsible for building the regulatory framework for the Indian Uber, that means Ola Cab. So I was the head of public policy and legal for them for a couple of years, and I was responsible for building, and I've seen the business growth. That's the first kind of shared economy business in India, which picked up and become the biggest $1 billion company in a few years. Taking a cue from there, and what Eric raised a question, which is a very relevant question, that, what about the bar associations questioning the marketplace for lawyers, and that may become the advertising of it. So I think with Legalkart, what we are trying to do and what we are trying to create is, Uberization versus democratization of the legal services, what we are, currently trying to create. When I say democratization of legal service, I mean to say that it should be accessible to everybody at a very cost-effective way and in the most transparent way. Right. So probably in a marketplace, that which lawyer you are talking to, and lawyer knows that who you are and what's your background, and then based on your stature, probably the advisory is drafted, designed, and probably you may not have many options when it comes to meeting more lawyers or taking more perspectives on your matter. Right. So with Legalkart, what we've created is a just consult concept, where you can just buy consultation minutes. You can buy, let's say, 60 minutes in as low as, let's say, it's a $15 cost if I talk about. So in $15, you have 60 minutes available on your phone. Whenever you will make a call, our smart match technology will connect you with the next available lawyer in the system. Now, the best part of here is the call is anonymous. It's confidential call. Your number will not be shared. you have a very specific question or you have a very specific query. The other side of the phone, the lawyer may be from anywhere in the country. These lawyers are filtered by our system based on your requirements. Say that if you have chosen a specific language, if you've chosen a specific practice area, the system will, actually pick up the similar kind of practice area and language preference, and then it connects you with the lawyer. After speaking for 5 or 10 minutes, you are now much more informed before you made a call. So now you are an informed customer, you know that what legal problem you are into and what may be the probable approach to it. You want to have a second perspective on it, and you just wanted to understand it. Is there any other third approach available to it? You can again call on the same system. The system will connect you. So as long as you have minutes with you, the lawyer is on demand for you. It's a 24/7 system which is running. So the beauty of this system is that a customer is now, much more aware about his or her problem without even revealing their identity. And I'm telling you why it is so important, that how your identity makes a lot of difference over here. On our system, a lot of high-profile people also use our system to call, without revealing that who they are. Maybe they are a millionaire, or maybe they are a celebrity. Many celebrities use our system without telling that who they are. They are getting the most neutral and the most possible legal way to approach to a problem, right? The person who is advising them have no idea who they are. So the person who is asking has a simple question that this is what my legal problem is. There is a technical error, or there is a documentation error, or maybe I'm facing this kind of legal challenge. What is it that I can do? And probably after talking to 2 or 3 different lawyers, they are now much more informed, and they can take a well informed decision. They don't need anyone else to decide for them, right? So in this way, we are trying to revolutionize the whole concept of accessing a legal service with much more informed way. We are a country of 1 billion people. Only 1 to 2% of the people are accessing legal services, because rest of them either are not aware of it, of their rights, or they are little bit skeptical going to lawyer because they are not sure what is going to be the cost, what is going to be the time, what is going to be the solution, and they are also not sure that the solution provided me is actually suiting me or not. So we are working at a much more fundamental level, where we are, helping the consumer, the end consumer, and democratizing the access to lawyers. So that is one thing, and based on the demand that we are getting from end consumer, we are then creating products for them, because we can now say that there is a 40% of the people who, the kind of calls that we are getting, they are requiring property related legal products. They are buying a home and they are not very sure. They are the first time buyers, and they are not very sure that what kind of legal documents they should be having, what kind of legal compliance they should follow, what is the taxation structure, etc. So we are now creating an end-to-end solution in a form of product for them. They can just come, they buy, and they are sorted with this, right? So the first step in democratizing is identifying and segregating the kind of public requirements, and then based on the needs, we are creating products for them. So that's how we are building this. Our research and our experience is that at this point of time, more than 20 billion minutes of consultation is required in a country like India almost every year, where people want to ask all sorts of questions. People are ready to pay, but they are not ready to pay for an arbitrary fees for a lawyer. A lawyer may say, I may need $100 for a 20 minutes or a 30 minutes of advisory. Instead, people say that I have just 2 questions. If these 2 questions are answered, either I need a service or I'm sorted with this, right? And this is actually helping them to filter their problems, and they are now much more confident by using Legalkart consultation minutes. And based on that, we see that there is no less demand in the market, but the demand is now growing, because now whatever services and whatever products they are buying with much more higher intent, and with much more they are much more intelligent when they are making a demand for a legal product.
Yeah. Wow, that's I have to say I was very surprised. I thought that the productization was going to come from the perspective of the law firm delivering the services, but what it sounds like is you're productizing the demand and the intake into the actual current supply. That's really interesting. I want to, we're coming up at the end of the hour, so of course I want to get reactions from Zolo or Sacha or Eric to anything that Arvind said. Any questions briefly for Arvind on this concept? It's and I can only imagine what the data is showing you in terms of what the actual demand is. But any questions from the panelists? Otherwise, we'll get to final remarks.
Yeah, I think I thought, I think it's a great idea because I know from, previous conversations I've had with different people, in India that there's just, there's no access to legal. And I think it's, what you're doing, it's actually deceptively simple but it's actually getting it into people's hands. I'm curious, what do you have like how much sort of adoption have you got so far?
So we are now selling more than 200 lakh minutes, 200,000 minutes every month, and this is growing like about 25% month on month.
That's fantastic. I think it's a great idea, and you can take that so much further. It doesn't just have to be via phone; it can be, via web or whatever, and then you can start to productize it. And I think that's kind of what what people are crying out for over there. So I think it's really exciting. Well done.
Thank you so much, Sacha.
Yeah, that's great. So I want to get to final remarks. So Eric, any final remarks? Anything that sort of struck you about the panelists today, or anything that you want to let everybody with? Anything that you thought was interesting?
Just one observation, which sort of confirms a lot of the different things that we saw from the report, which is that the state of the legal tech market is just so different in different regions, where we heard from Zolo around Uberization and the opportunities around Uberization, for example, in the Mongolian market, and then the democratization and productization of legal services in India and how that's being done. And then finally, back to Australia with Sacha around how a lot of the structural change in the industry is starting to happen, and it's coming through from the clients. So that's been super interesting, just getting a glean into the different regions and how legal tech is shaping and mapping the different markets.
Yeah, great comments. Sacha, any final comments from you?
I just love the diversity of the discussion, and I think we're all kind of doing what we're doing. We get up every day because we're really passionate about changing the industry that we're in, and I think access to justice and sharing standards and data and documents, and being more human-centered in the work that we do. I think all of these things are really, really important, and I think it's been really great to share these ideas together.
Yeah. Agreed. Zolo, final comments from you?
Okay, thank you. And I think most of our audience will be lawyers. So I just wanted to tell all those lawyers that, there are discussions of legal tech transformation, legal tech innovation all around this space. But I want lawyers to be more open to these type of discussions and trying to really understand how people are saying what's going to happen. So just keep an eye out for any type of discussion and any type of new innovation, because lawyers are always criticized for being slow to tech adoption. So it feels like many people say that legal industry transformation is actually very close, and COVID-19 actually accelerates in it, and I completely agree with that. So the change might come really soon.
Yeah, agreed. But we are going to need lawyers who are involved in it. They are a core stakeholder, and us as the legal technology, we definitely want to work with you to bring this home and really make it stick. Arvind, any final words, anything inspirational?
Thank you so much, and I think it's a blessing to be a part of this era now when legal is growing and technology is helping its evolution, and we are lucky to help billions of people now in this country to access the system in the most optimal way for themselves. And thank you so much for this opportunity to present it here.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so let's go ahead and close it up. I'm going to push us even forward. Just imagine what the future will look like when all of these innovations have been ingested into the system, and then we get to build on top of that. It will be a very interesting future, certainly. But and you all will have been part of it, driving it in some definite big way. So that's it's a very bright future. So thank you again for giving us the opportunity, panelists, to speak with you and pick your brain. Thank you so much to LawWiser for hosting us, and thanks to NEXL for paying me to do this. It's fantastic. So thank you very much to everybody. Have a great rest of your day wherever you are, and take care, everyone. Bye-bye.